Okay guys, welcome back to the live stream. Back up here. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you guys are enjoying the floor install series. I'm going to slow down just a little bit. I'll explain why. This series will be going step by step, and we've been on schedule, more on my schedule of what I want to do for this build. And what that's done is I think there's a couple things that I need to address for the DIYer, somebody that is doing their van build, and discuss some of the things that I've kind of already worked on, but haven't mentioned to you guys as I'm doing this process. And one big thing is electrical. So electrical is technically not part of a flooring install. However, as you can see here, it's directly related because we are dealing with wires everywhere because there's a couple ways that you can do a van build. You can run the wires under the floor like I'm doing, or you can do floor in the walls or the ceiling or something like that. Thomas's van, we did the ceiling because there's an easy way to access that, and the amount of wires that we had would not run under the floor. There's no way, we had no room. So in this video today, we are going to talk about wire runs. We're going to talk about where you can put it in a Ford Transit, front, back, middle, roof, walls. We're going to show you how to do stuff that's complicated like this, which is the Dometic RTX 2000. It's not that complicated, but when you try to go through wall cavities in a van with sheet metal, you can get a little hairy. So we're going to go over that. We're also going to go through modifying the foam in the floor before you put the final wood down in case you needed to add an additional run, which I need to, and just some other things like that. So we're still talking about the floor process because we're going to be working directly on the floor, but that's what we're going to cover in this video. If you guys haven't been watching this series, we're putting a flooring system in a Ford Transit. This is a Ford Transit high roof. It's a 148, not non-extended, so just a regular 148. And the flooring system that we have in here, we used AVC Rig. We used their flooring templates. So they're paper templates that allow you to cut out your own material, save a bit of money on the floor. For me, it wasn't necessarily the budget for the van. It was because I was modifying the floor so heavily that I did not want to buy a full flooring system and, you know, cut out 30% of it. I'm going to go run and grab one of those paper templates, just while I'm thinking about it. And that way I can show you guys what I'm talking about. But we're installing the floor. We're doing the insulation. Anything you need to make sure the floor is nice and even. We're talking about the stuff as far as the adhesive, what we're using, things to consider as you do the process, and then eventually we're going to get to where we actually install the lawn seal flooring. So we're doing the coin style flooring. So if you guys have ever seen engineering drawings or blueprints, that's essentially what this is. So they use a plotter to print this out, which is just essentially a big printer. I gotta be careful because my tape is getting caught. I want to reuse this. As you can see here, and there's no affiliation. I'm just giving you guys some really good information. You see right here? So we got ABC Rig, and we've got this template. And so you can see, it's a full piece of paper that is designed to go on the floor, and you trace out everything. It actually has some trace outs over here on the left for if you wanted to put cutouts for seats. It's like the Ford seating system. And this is probably really loud, so let me just get rid of this. Anyway, this is the template kit. You can see how there's edges that you can, it's mapped out around different parts of the van. So you got a front, a middle, and a rear section. And maybe we'll put one of these templates over the piece of wood when we take it out here in just a little bit. Show you guys a better example. But anyway, what we're going to do today is go through the electrical. So we've already done the rear of the van. We've taken care of our sub panel over here in the kitchen galley. And what we're going to do today is take out this middle floor panel by the the gasoline Webasto, and we're going to make a notch through the floor right here, and then we're going to through the floor here, and then we're going to come notch out the back side here of the shower pan, and then come back over here, and then round the corner, and then have it come through our already pre-drilled hole where all our wires are coming through. We're going to be adding a couple wires. What we're going to be adding is we have one outlet that is a waterproof outlet that goes outside the van. Not outside the van, but on the outside of the kitchen galley. So it's inside the van when you shut the door, but it's on the outside. That is so that you're able to use a induction stove. Let me turn this light up. It's dark in the back. Let's see here. There we go. So back here, we're going to, the outlet down there, it's going to be where the step up in the van is. Above that, we'll have like a Lagoon table mount. And then that'll be the outside, so you can use your induction cooktop outside and cook. Inside, we'll have one more on the kitchen, and that one is pretty cool. So both of them are the pop-up style. Not the tower kind, but these are like 45-degree pop-ups, and they're very nice. They're very nice. So I just ordered them the other day, so they should be here pretty soon. They have 2 outlets. They're rated for 15 amps, but they also have 2 USB ports. So it's just nice and convenient to have that. Now you will have to have the inverter on for those to operate, obviously. So if you're okay with that just being on when you're charging your phone, for example, that's good. The other way we have charging in this van is we have USB outlets. Those will be just 12 volts. And we'll have one over here by the flip and fold seat, so passengers can charge their phone while everybody's riding in the van. We're going to have 2 additional up top, and those 2 are so if you want to store anything inside the upper cabinets, but you want to also have the ability to charge something, so like maybe a phone brick or a laptop or something like that. You can stow it up there and also plug it in to be charged, so that's nice and convenient. And then over here, we'll have one in case you guys want to maybe charge something at nighttime, so, you know, by the bedside. So all that wiring has to be, all the paths have to be created. So all the engineering has already been done as far as the gauges we're going to be using, how many outlets we needed to buy, the 120 volt breaker from Blue Sea Systems that's going to control all that. Then we have our more, I guess you would call meaty components. So we got our hot water heater, and we have a connection for a microwave. So over here on the right side, I haven't talked about this, but this kitchen galley has an opening, and I'm calling it the flex space. So you can pretty much design it to have whatever you want in there. It's actually sized for a isotherm Cruise 65 drawer fridge, so that's the profile. That's what the hole is designed for. Since we have the Cruise 130 over here, which is much bigger, we're not using another fridge, but I mean, you could have 2 fridges in your van if you wanted to. But this side over here is, it's more going to be leaning towards your storage for your portable toilet, or storage for additional pots and pans, or just kind of anything you want. It's just a big opening that is flexible to whatever customer decides to purchase the van. So that's over here, but we need to make sure that if somebody actually wanted to, for example, put a microwave in it, that we have a outlet that we can use to wire that. So that is going to take up, so if we go look at our 120 volt breaker, we have our hot water heater that's going to take up one of those outlets. We'll have our microwave, which will take out another one. I'm calling it the microwave because it's just, we have to map out an outlet, and that's the spot it's going. And then then we have two more, which are our two 15 amp pop-up outlets. The one that's for the kitchen galley and the one that's for the outside. And that's really just convenience. Anytime that I'm in my van and I go traveling and I go hang out with my friends, I'm the one that kind of brings the kitchen, the coffee maker, the espresso machine, if you guys have seen my van review. So I've got all that stuff, and I always cook outside. I do have a countertop inside, but it's fun to cook outside. You don't have to worry about the fumes or anything like that, and it's enjoyable. So having that outlet outside, right where the induction stove is going to be really nice. So now that we have that all taken care of, let's go to the next step, which is let's talk about our wire that we're going to be using. I'm going to move this back just a little bit. Okay. So the floor went in really well. If you guys can see, I'm actually going to be sitting on it as opposed to not sitting on it like I was yesterday. All right, let's pull this down a little bit. Okay, we've got 3 spools of wire here that we're going to be using. They're 100 feet each, which doesn't really mean anything. You just make sure that we have enough wire, we don't run out. And we have 3 different sizes. So we have we'll start with the smallest gauge first, which is our 14-2 wire. So this is marine wire. I can't talk tonight. It's been a fun week. This marine wire, you guys can see, it's kind of double coated. So you have this outside jacket and these dual inside jackets. So it's really resilient to getting nicked or tear, having any type of abrasion to it. The 14 gauge wire is going to be used for all of our USB outlets, and it's a little overkill, but there may be some locations where you can take this and then you can actually run 2 USBs off of it. We're maxing this out at 15 amps. And so that would run, it's about 5 amps to charge a MacBook. So we need, if we have, for example, if one of these lines runs 2 USB outlets, the fast charge ones, that's 10 amps with a 15 amp fuse. That's kind of what you want to do. So no more than 2 of those fast charging per run. So we'll probably run 1 to the left side of the van. So we have our our 2 USB ports, and then we'll run one to the other side of the van for our other 2. So that's how this is going to be run. And we'll be running this tonight through that wire trough, or whatever you want to call it, cutout in the floor. We need a path for it. So that's one of the wires that's going to go in that path. Next, we have our next wire that's going in there. It's a 12-2. So our 12-2 wire, which is 12 gauge, same design, same style, marine wire. It's going to be supplying the voltage to the fridge. So we need to make sure that the fridge is getting enough juice. And I think the circuit needs 15 amps, and we're going to fuse it at, it's supposed to be fused at 15 amps, so the fridge doesn't really use that much, maybe like 10 to 12. But we're oversizing it to 12 gauge because of just what I ran into with Thomas's van. I don't want any nuisance faults with the fridge. Even though we used the appropriate wiring for the manual, the length was too long. So one way that you can help yourself is, if you're unsure if your wire is too long, you can just go up a size in the wire. Now you should be doing the math. You should measure how long your wire is going in your van, so that you're taking care of any voltage drops that are happening between the source and wherever the device is picking up the current. But if you're worried that you're going to have too much of a voltage drop, going up in the wire size is going to help that. And we already talked about that, but if you guys didn't see that, I'm going to talk about it for about 2 seconds. Let me just pull it up here on the computer. So we talked about this in the last stream, maybe 2 streams ago. But if you go to blueseasystems.com and you can just Google this circuit diagram. I see, what was my query was Blue Sea Systems wire size. So I did that in Google. This chart came up and I clicked on this chart. So this chart is going to give you everything you need to know about picking the appropriate wire size. Also for the distance. So for example, if you have a 20 amp circuit and it's non-critical, which means it can withstand, the device can withstand a 10% voltage drop or fluctuation, 20 feet would be your max for a 20 amp circuit using 14 gauge wire. If you needed to use more, like 12 gauge for example, if you need to go further, so if you need to go from 20 feet to 30 feet, let me zoom in. So if you needed to go from 20 feet to 30 feet, notice how you need to go from a 14 gauge to a 12 gauge. So this is what you need to use. So this is part of the DIY where you need to do your homework, and these are the charts that I use. This is what you should use so that you do it right. It's not going to hurt anything going up in wire size. It's only going to hurt your budget because the heavier gauge is just cost more. But that's usually where people mess up, is they try to save money with the electrical, and the last place I would ever try to save money is in the wiring. I might have like a cheaper component or something like that, but just do not do it. Do not skimp out on wiring. This 12-2 wire that I bought, it was expensive. It's probably $150 to $170 for 100 feet. But this is the correct application, the correct tool for the job, and we're going to be safe. Okay, that's for the fridge. So we got USB ports, we got the fridge. Next is the big one, which is 12.3. And 12.3 The 3 designates 3 wires. So this is where we're going to have our 3 wires for our 120 volt power. So this thicker, so this wire is carrying the 120 volts, so it's not 12 volts. We're not using this for 12 volts. This is what's going to connect to our Blue Sea Systems breaker, and this is what is going to power our 2 outlets. It's also going to power the microwave outlet, and it's going to power the hot water outlet. Now, one thing I do for the microwave and the hot water is I actually wire in. Where is my example? I wire in it's essentially an extension cord for that outlet. So where can I find this? Okay, this is not the example I want to use, but it's pretty close. So you can buy these they're not pre-wired, they're unwired. Is that a thing? Forget this end, I'm just going to show you an example. So you can get these cables that already have these ends exposed like that. And so, for example, this one is, what gauge? So this is a 14 gauge wire. So this 14 gauge wire, this is essentially an extension cord, but the reason I like using these is because this stuff is tough as nails. This outer jacket is very tough. It's essentially an extension cord, but it's extremely tough. The inside are also jacketed, and it's stranded wire. This is 14 gauge. So we're going to go over here. We're going to type in 14 gauge 120 volt max amps. We'll go over here. And so a 14 gauge cable is rated for 15 amps. So if we go back up here, so we can use that for 15 amp circuits, which are only going to take out 15 amps, which is the hot water heater and the microwave, for example. But the cool thing is, check this out. The 12 gauge can do 20 amps. So what I like about that is the 12 gauge is what I'm going to use for the outlets. So just for example, if there's 2 things plugged in the outlets, safety wise, it's still going to be the breaker is still going to be 15 amps, but the wire going to it can handle 20 amps. All right, let's keep going here. Go back. Okay, so we have all our stuff here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the middle floor out, and we're going to go ahead and cut out our paths so that we can run what we need to with the 3 wire. We're going to run or give our space for the 2 wire 12 and the 2 wire 14 gauge. And so we will re-zoom the camera back in and take care of that. So what got me thinking about doing this little change up in the flooring video is I was messing with the Dometic cable, and I was noticing that this cable it was not going to go in the location that I wanted it to go in. And there's a couple other cables I wanted to change up as well. So I said, you know what? If I'm having to do this, you guys may be doing it as well, and I didn't want it to be something I skipped over. All right, we're going to come in to the van. All right, there we go. Should be pretty good. The good news is what we did yesterday worked out really well. This floor is perfectly level in the back. And that's something we were trying to achieve yesterday when we were gluing everything down. And before I take this panel out, I need to trace by this heater over here because I need to cut out, while we're cutting out foam, we need to cut out the excess that was needed to be removed yesterday from the gas heater. So one thing I'm going to do really quick, I made a couple notes on this piece of wood, and it's stuff that I need to additionally cut out. So I'm going to take a piece of green tape. I marked over here where I want to cut out a little bit of room for this truss from Adventure Wagon. Over here on this left side as well, I have the wood is too close because it shifted about 1/8 of an inch to the right. And what else did I want to check on? So that's pretty good. So you can use tape to mark and keep track of things so you don't forget them. Because sometimes when you're working in a van, you'll have a moment of distraction, you'll work on something else, and you'll forget something that may be critical to where if you glue the floor down, it's going to be really hard to get back to it, which is exactly my case. All right, so over here, our heater is just temporarily put in here. So let's go ahead and just take it out. I'm going to sit it over here. And we're just going to trace out this foam. And we're just going to make sure we cut that out before we put the floor back in. And then I'm also going to make a mark here as this is our new lining up, our new alignment points for the back. And also when we take this up, we'll be able to see our work from yesterday to see how that aluminum glued down. All right, so back here, this piece of aluminum looks really good. That's what we worked on yesterday. So it's perfect, it's in place, it's not going anywhere. Back here, remember, we are not finished with these. These right here need to be, they need to be taken out and glued, but we won't do that until we are completely sure we've got all of our wiring where we need it to be. I'm just going to take my marker, and we always want to make alignment marks so that when you take something out, you're not losing where it was referenced to. And when you do those marks, I'm just making this stuff up, but you kind of want to do it at an angle. So nobody told me that. But the angle makes sure that you're not, putting it in the wrong way. So we'll just do 2 here. And then 2 here. Okay. And that way, when we put these back in, we'll know if they're misaligned or not. And then we'll label this one front and this one back. And then we'll do this one as driver and this one is passenger. Well, let's just do driver. Okay. Let's take these out. Because we cut the metal, we need to do rust preventative. We have our square here, and this is going to help us find where we want to cut our channel so that we can intersect over here. So what I'm doing is there's going to be a new path from the back of this heater area. It's going to come right through here. It's going to come straight over. This section behind the shower will be cut out. And then it's going to come straight over here and then go straight down here to access our hole right here. And if you're thinking, well, Nick, that would have been a lot easier if you did that earlier. That's right, but it's kind of a one-off floor. In the future, I want to standardize a little bit more, but this one was kind of an experiment with doing all these different components and the supports for the pull-out tray, and I really like it. But next time, what I'd probably do is just I would do the AVC rig floor, so I could just glue it in quickly. And then I'd go back and possibly cut out where I needed to. Since I kind of already know the method that I would use. But at the same time, I kind of like this because I can be really detailed with my wire stuff. It just takes a little bit longer. Okay, let's go ahead and get some tools to cut. And we're going to use a piece of aluminum as our reference because we're just going to make this slot 1 inch wide. So I'm going to finish tracing it out and then I'll keep on going. And also, if you guys have any questions, you guys know the drill. You can ask anything in the chat. So I'll make sure I cut on the outside of that. hopefully what you guys can take away from this is, especially as DIY, is, you know, don't get so worried that you've messed up and you can't change something, because you can just change it. It's just foam and wood at the end of the day, and glue. That's all it is. It's nothing crazy. And I'm going to mute this a little bit because I'm going to use the multi-tool, and it's extremely loud. The multi-tool is that's the cheat sheet. We're not going to be using, we won't be using the razor on this one. I'm going to knock this out pretty quick so we can keep on going. So once again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna get my knee pad. Okay, we're gonna be muted for just a minute. And we're going to cut this out, and then I'll show you what it looks like. One thing to note, over here, I do have cables that are running through here, so I need to do some type of visual cue to let me know not to cut through the cables. So I'm going to put a piece of tape right here, and I'm going to write stop. I'm not joking, guys. Don't be proud when you're doing, work, because you'll have to redo it if you're like that. All right, let's. We're gonna be muted here just for a second. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We're going to finish this spot over here in a second. I'm just going to get my razor. We'll start cutting out this foam. Razor and the chisel that we used last time. So what this is doing is, if we did somehow in the future, or the customer in the future did want to come in and rewire something, the fridge and the kitchen galley are bolted into the walls. So technically you can remove them, remove the shower pan, and then you'll have access to this wire here, and then you can open the box and gain access to the wiring going to the breaker. And then right here, I'm going to create a curve, so technically you could fish another wire in here up through the kitchen galley. So this does give a little bit of maintenance ability. If you're doing your van DIY, you definitely want to have access. The way I'm doing it, you have access. I say technically because there's a little bit of work to get to the wires. It's not super easy. The one thing you definitely want to have access to are your breakers, fuses. That is essential. This adhesive is so good. You guys can see, this is the fun part. It's almost like testing the product. This is how hard it would be to remove the floor if you had to. What we're also going to do is we're going to take some wire loom and we're going to wrap all the wires in that loom. That way we don't have to worry about it interacting with the shower pan or the trough or anything like that. It's nice and protected against any vibration or movement. And if you guys are watching, and let's just say maybe you're renovating an RV or something like that, pretty much the same steps that I'm taking here can be translated into, renovation. So say you're needed to add something to an existing system, you would probably be going through these steps anyway to run a new wire somewhere that it just wasn't possible before. And for the future, guys, I will work on some better camera angles. I know this is not the best for teaching, but this is kind of what we got right now. In a couple weeks, I'm looking into streaming 4K. I figured out how to do it, and the business internet that I have right now can support it. So, just a matter of getting the right hardware. Because we're only streaming in 1080p, 60 frames right now. Yeah, this Loctite PL Marine is, man, it's so good. It's excellent. It's great adhesion. All right, so that's all finished. Now we're just going to chip away this section over here. We're going to clean this up, and then we're going to come back. We'll do our rust preventative for our 3 sections here, and then we'll get to measuring some wire out. And just be very careful if you guys are using a chisel like I am. I'm interested to see what the comments will be later on this method. But There may be some questions asked, why don't I just do it through the walls? The issue is when you do the bump outs for the adventure wagon, there really is no room left over to run the wires through the walls, because after you rivet all the rails in place, you cover up a lot of the access to any of the traditional places that you would run a wire. So, plus I think it's a waste to. We are going to be running wires through the ceiling for those USB outlets, but this 120 volt lines for all of our 120 volt accessories, the cables are just too thick to, because we have to run 4 of them. So 12 volt stuff's fine, because we'll probably run the 12 volt stuff over the ceiling and into the cabinets. But we still need this. We still need this right here. Because I like everything so low profile, like really up against the wall, as tight as can be. The battery compartment very nice and tight, to create a lot of openness in the van. Because I notice when I see a lot of vans, even though they have good design, they seem very closed off in the back. So these side compartments are really high. Now that's okay if you're using that to be part of your bed system, that makes sense. But my goal with this build is to it's really the utility of this van. So the ability to, take the bed system out if you need to, haul furniture, put a motorcycle in here if you wanted to, mountain bikes, just a lot of cargo area. So you don't take away from the cargo part of the van. All right, this is the place where I had to be extremely careful. So let's see how I do. I'm just scoring the top, so just the top. I've got access to our power wires now, so I can now see where I'm cutting. I'm going to put you guys on mute. I'm good to cut this backside right here. Okay, perfect. We made it to our side over here. So now we can just move our power wire out of the way. And we're going to clean up these edges on the foam. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clean this up. We'll vacuum this out, do a rust preventative, and then we will be done with this. So we just basically made a path from here across the back of our shower pan over and up through here for our wire runs. So while I'm vacuuming it out, I'm going to mute it here for a second. Okay guys, we're back. We are getting our gloves on so we can get our rust preventative. It's essentially the Krylon Fusion. You could use any paint you wanted for it, but I think this stuff works really well. I've used it a bunch. Now I just gotta find the can that I was using. So what I'm doing just for rust preventative is just put it in a plastic cup. Be careful what cup you put it in. Some of the plastic cups will melt. So be careful on that one. Yeah, I'm just going to go front to back here and get all the spots that we cut up with the razor. I'm going to get them nice and taken care of. The cool thing is this stuff dries extremely fast. If you're inside, it dries fast when you're inside. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll take a picture of this with my phone, and then we'll look at it on the computer. All right, make sure we didn't get any more gouges around here. Okay, that looks good. Now let's check out this section. That one's good. Right here. Well, that was really fast. I thought it was going to take a little longer than that. All right, let's go put our paint up. Keep going. Okay, guys, I'm going to go and put some stuff away real quick. I'll be right back. I am muted. Thank you. Okay. Where was I not muted at? All right, let me back up. So what we're talking about here is we are talking about the floor layout and where the wires are running. So we have wires running over here. We've cut out these two notches for our pull-out tray. And this last one that we cut out, this is going to give us access to our 4 120 volt wires that are going to come up through the floor here for our kitchen galley. Now, two things that we can do. We can either, and this is what I want to get your guys' opinion on, we can do the built-in induction stove, and that saves us a drawer so that you can put like pots and pans in it. And then you have a silverware drawer and a pots and pans drawer, and you still have the flex space open for like your toilet or some other storage. Or you lose that bottom drawer, that becomes where you put your induction stove. We don't mount it, and that outlet kind of gets freed up. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm not permanently mounting the induction stove. So you can take it inside or outside and keep it in the drawer when you're not using it. But we are going to have a wire there for multiple uses. That's the one that can be for the microwave, the permanent induction. So that's that one wire. That's the 14 gauge. Then the second 14 gauge is going to come through here down, and I'm going to feed it up under the floor onto this side. And that is going to be used for the hot water heater. So that's going to provide power for that. The reason we want the plug-in style is because if you have an induction stove, you're going to have a residential plug on the end of it. If you have a microwave, you're going to have a residential plug on the end of it. If you have the hot water heater, it's going to have a residential plug on the end of it. And it's just convenient, so in the future, if something happens and you need to replace it, it just plugs right in, but you're also not cutting out a hole, building an electrical box, getting an electrical receptacle, faceplate, all that stuff. It's just a simple plug-in. At the end of the day, it does not have to be that complicated. So if we look at this, what we've done is all this black paint here, that's just what we did rust preventative, because now the metal that was covered in our adhesive is now exposed. So since it's exposed, we need to paint over it. It's extremely unlikely that this would ever rust, but guess what? It's just a little bit of paint. It gives you a good peace of mind, and you never have to worry about it again once you do it. So we painted that. This section was just only the lattice, as you can see. So that's the only thing supporting that. But then this back side, we did do a couple pieces there. These pieces they're not a structural, have to be glued in. We'll put glue on them just so they don't squeak, because any time that you have this metal and this foam, it has a potential to squeak. So on this back side and the other side, you want to make sure you coat it in just a little bit of that marine adhesive so that when it dries, it doesn't squeak. This is cool. We can actually see what we worked on yesterday. So this is a piece of the aluminum that we notched out for the floor. So we have one here, and then we have another one here, and we're going to countersink a hole, sheet metal screw with a pan head. Let's see if I can find that part, because I actually need to buy it. So pan head. Screws Lowe's. Okay, it's called, I don't know, this is what it looks like. See how it has a flat head? So it's flat. Where's the 360 view? There you go. Yeah, so it's flat. So basically you countersink this bottom part, and then it's flat when you screw it in. And these are 1 inch, which is perfect. I don't, maybe you need an inch and, let's see. I'll measure with the calipers. One thing you want to be careful of when you get sheet metal screws is on a sheet metal screw, you have this end. And this end is what, taps into the metal to begin the hole, essentially like a little mini drill bit. But this back part here, even though this is 1 inch long, it doesn't engage until after this 1/4 inch tip. So technically, we only have 1/4 inch of threads that are going to be grabbing the aluminum, which might be okay. So we'll do a test, because remember, when this goes into the wood, it's going to have a 1/2 inch for the wood, and then whatever threads are left are what's going to go in the aluminum. So you may need to get a longer screw, or we may need to get a longer screw. So we got to think about that. Let's see what else here. Is there anything else I wanted to show you? Okay, I'm going to let this paint dry. We're going to take a quick break. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back in an hour for the 9 o'clock stream. So just take a little break. Need a middle break. And what I'm going to do in that meantime is I'm going to grab something to eat, and then I'm going to actually get my paint and stuff out to prep. Because even though we do the stream at 9, we're going to go over the wire links. I need to, after that stream, late tonight, I need to paint these pieces of wood. So I need to do that. I need to do that off camera so that tomorrow we have a shot at actually putting in the lawn sill floor, even if it's in the afternoon, to keep on going. So stick with us. Come back when we have this next live stream later tonight. Bring your questions. Looking forward to chatting with everybody tonight in just a little bit, and we'll continue. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Click that like button if you liked this video and this information. Get your questions ready, because we're ready to do a 9 o'clock live stream, which we will continue with this project behind us, and we'll see you then.